Why the heck is everyone so obsessed with gold right now? Even Costco, a company known for avoiding trends and being slow to move on new markets, has gotten in the game.
You can buy just about anything from Costco.
Costco has a hot-selling item this holiday season.
Costco is now selling 1-ounce gold bars, and they're already selling out pretty fast here.
But what is all the hype about? Why should you add gold to your portfolio, and why do people really buy gold anyways? I'll tell you right now, it's not what you think. So let's rewind back to 2020 when I made one of the most hated videos on the internet.
I'm going to tell you about the stupidest and probably the coolest investment I ever made.
This was the video I made after I dug deep into the truth about investing in gold and silver. And the comments were wild. The dumbest investment I ever made was watching this video. That comment got over 6,000 likes. Or this one. Is this guy serious? What an idiot. And worse, he still thinks of PM, that means precious metals, as an investment. Absolutely no clue. Ba. Continue grazing there, buddy. Don't listen to a word this twat says. Wait, what? People don't think gold is an investment? I thought everyone knew what an investment was. At least that's what I thought when I made that video. But it turns out I was wrong. And my insinuation that gold was not only an investment but a bad one, to some was the equivalent of calling their newborn baby ugly.
On you! Ugly baby judges you!
And that led me down a rabbit hole to find the real reason people buy gold and silver. And what I found was surprising. But first, I have to confess that I got a lot wrong in my 2020 video. For example, I use the term conspiracy theorists, a term that is used to dismiss people by politicians and people in power, or even label large groups of people as, well, crazy. And that wasn't what I was trying to do, even though that's kind of what I did. That was wrong, and the first thing I want to do is apologize for that. I'm sorry. But that wasn't the only thing I was wrong about. And yes, my views on owning gold and silver have changed, and I'll explain how at the end of this video. But before I get into the other things I was wrong about, I first want to explain where I was coming from. My educational background is in economics, and while some may suggest that I'm not qualified to discuss the benefits of gold and silver as investments, the truth is, I actually am. And that was the first part of the problem. I was looking at gold as an investment and analyzing it through the lens of opportunity cost. And when it comes to investing in gold and silver, there are a lot of better investment opportunities out there.
What equity investments?
But that was the first part of the problem with my 2020 video. I was comparing gold to other investments, and it turns out people don't buy gold for better returns, although some have been fooled into thinking that they do. There are a lot of reasons people use to justify buying gold. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. Gold is the only real money. The dollar's collapsing. Gold outperforms stocks. Gold is a good hedge against inflation. It's not an investment, it's an insurance policy. It preserves wealth. And my favorite is central banks are buying it at the highest levels in history, which I'll get to in a minute. And all of this is true, at least on the surface. But the reality is that as much as each of these statements carries some truth, they are in fact convenient truths that can easily be debunked with just a little bit of research. The problem is, people don't dig deep enough. They tend to make emotional purchases and then rationalize them with logic, even if the logic is superficial. Take, for example, the belief that gold outperforms stocks. Yes, if you cherry pick the dates, you can make this argument. But the law of large numbers suggests that just like in a casino, over time, all investments return to their mean. Or there's the assertion that gold is a good tool for preserving wealth. But preserving wealth relative to what? Maybe it preserves wealth relative to cash, yes, but if other investments are outperforming, you're actually losing ground, not preserving it. And no matter what a guru tells you, just like stocks, the risk of substantial drops in prices is real. For example, between 1980 and 1982, gold lost 55% of its value. And to this day, if you had bought gold at the highs in 1980, it has never recovered fully when adjusted for inflation. And in 2013, gold lost almost 30% of its value. And half of those losses came in just 2 days, wiping out more than $1 trillion in value. And it took a full 7 years for prices to recover from there. Oh, and by the way, if you bought gold at the peak in 1980, gold would have to hit $2,600 to be fully recovered. Then there's my favorite. This is the assertion that countries are buying gold at record levels. But the real question is, why are they actually buying the gold? Is it because China and the other BRICS nations are going to push a return to the gold standard? Well, not exactly. If you dig deep enough, you'll find the more likely reason, which is that they fear the risk of US sanctions, and they are using gold to trade illicitly with Russia and other countries that are now sanctioned by the US. And their purchases of gold are more to do with the fact that the US can virtually eliminate the ability to trade in US dollars, which for many countries is becoming a real risk. But they trust each other's currencies less than they trust that of the US dollar. I mean, if you're China and India, for example, are you really going to agree to trade in each other's currencies? Especially when you are one small misstep away from war because you can't even agree on a shared border.
It is a disputed, demarcated border between two of the most populous nations in the world, both armed with nuclear weapons.
So yes, countries are buying up gold at record levels, but not for the reasons that you may think. And just because countries are doing it doesn't mean it's necessarily the best investment for an individual. But gold dealers aren't going to tell you that the real reason countries are buying gold is because they found themselves between a rock and a hard place when it comes to trading in USD, a currency that is and will continue to be the reserve currency for the Western world, even if the BRICS nations do somehow come up with an alternative that is not dependent on the US. And let's be clear here, the stability of these nations in general doesn't provide much confidence when it comes to them having a widely accepted alternative currency. And then there's the whole hedge against inflation thing. A little bit of research proves this to be true over the long run, but it's typically only true if you own the gold before the inflation became a problem. And the reality is, it's actually a better hedge against crisis than it is against inflation. And that's largely to do with the real reason that people buy gold, which I'm going to get to in a second. So while all the reasons mentioned previously are true in part, none are the real reason that people are buying gold. The real reason people buy gold is fear. And the more fear there is in the economy, the higher prices go. You can actually see this correlation between the VIX spikes and gold prices when graphed next to each other. What's the VIX? Well, the VIX is a gauge of volatility in the stock market. It basically measures fear. And the greater the fear, the higher gold prices go. I mean, just look at this graph. You can see it right here. Fear goes up, gold prices go up. Fear goes down, gold prices go down. Which pretty much explains why gold prices have been fluctuating so much over the last couple of years, because between the financial crisis, the dot-com bubble burst, and the pandemic, there's been a lot of fear in the market. So if people and countries for that matter buy gold when they are scared, that leads to a bigger problem. Fear is the single biggest motivator when it comes to human psychology. And the more scared people get, the more irrational they become. And this can lead people to do silly things, like buy up all the toilet paper.
You know what else is disappearing from the supermarket shelves? Toilet paper.
Believe it or not, this isn't the first time a crisis has created a TP frenzy.
Tensions flared when 3 women became involved in a toilet paper tussle.
Or do things like put all of their money into an investment that can often create a false sense of security. But that doesn't mean gold doesn't have its place when it comes to safety and security, or even as an investment. In an absolute worst case scenario, having a little bit of physical gold on hand can be beneficial. The likelihood of this happening is low, but it's still a possibility. And as far as cash versus gold goes, yes. If you are a stuff money into the mattress kind of person, then you might want to consider gold so that you have a better chance of it maintaining its value. Just remember, this isn't guaranteed. And most importantly, gold does have its place in a diversified portfolio. It can mitigate the risk of a major drawdown thanks to its crisis hedge characteristics. So in other words, when the stock market and the bond market crash, oftentimes because of the fear associated with those crashes, gold values will increase, which means it can mitigate your losses. But should gold be your only holding? Absolutely not. Nor should you be buying it just because you see some news report that scares the shit out of you. Take a breath, do your research, and understand that the worst case scenario is rarely what actually happens. So yeah, sure, buy some gold, but do it wisely. Oh, and if you want to dig deeper into gold and silver, or see the original video on why I felt it was such a big mistake for me to buy precious metals, make sure you check out this video right here.